Studio today is founder of Women for Change, Sabrina Walter, and we're going to have a conversation about gender-based violence on a global scale, as well as what it's like being in the NPO space. Welcome to the show, Sabrina.
Hi, Darren. Nice sitting down with you.
Thank you very much. How have you been? How's the year been? It's been crazy in the space you work in, isn't it?
Yes, I think it was a crazy year. A lot has happened. We were once again at the forefront of gender-based violence. I think particularly in the advocacy space, handing over our petition in April this year, and then moving along to the G20 shutdown that we had one day before the G20 actually happened in South Africa.
Right. Those are a lot of big moves. Let's start with how you got into the space in the first place. How did that happen for you? Was it one particular incident? Was it life experience? Was it observation? All of the above?
All of the above. So I'm originally from Germany. I grew up quite safely, meaning I walked to school when I was 7 years old. Studied, went out quite often, took public transport at night, and I felt safe. So when I came to South Africa, I was quite young. And I mean, the first things that they tell you is don't walk to the car alone after you go out. Don't meet strangers. Be careful. Lock the car when you drive at all times. Never stop in the side of the road if you don't know where to go. When I came, there was no Google Maps, so it was quite difficult. And those are things like you don't do where I come from. So that already gave me a lot of thought. And then 2 years after I stayed here, I had a femicide case happen in my flats of apartment in Sea Point, which was quite horrific. And let's not go back to that. But that, I think, shocked me quite a bit. And then in 2014, I founded a running community called Catch Me If You Can. And that was more building friendships, moving safer together, and again, empowering women. And
So it was just a kind of women's running club?
it was not a club, it was a community nationwide. So we placed different, we called them leaders. Those women would offer weekly runs, 2 times, 3 times a week for free. And then other women just joined them. We did it via WhatsApp and then moved actually building an app for it. So it was quite successful, and we hosted events for only women. And in 2016, there was an incident in Tokai Forest, an area considered as safe. Franziska was murdered, and I had a running leader in Tokai Forest. She would run the same route that Franziska took twice a week. So she called me on the day it happened. She said, Sabrina, this has happened. We haven't found her. And while we were on the phone, they have eventually found her. So she said to me, can we do something? Can we get back into that forest? Something with the community. So I sat down with my co-founder. We knew we couldn't call it Catch Me If You Can. So we just really just came up with Women for Change. And we put a post up, an event on Facebook, and we said, let's get back into that forest, stand there together for Franziska and for all the other women. While I was going through that case about Franziska, which had so much outrage, I found another case that just happened 5 days before in Kalicha. Sinok Solo was raped and murdered on a public toilet. And that had one headline in the Cape Argus, and that was it. So I called for all women, children, men, come together, and 4,000 people walked up at Tokai Forest, and then we took it from there. We created events, very successful in 2018 and 2019 in Sandton City and Cape Town, running events just to raise awareness about gender-based violence. And then in 2020, COVID hit. And I utilized the social media platforms that I had already to just continue with the awareness and campaigning and sharing stories. And then from that moment, everything changed.
Yeah.
We never did events again, but we opened a space for women, young girls, young boys to come to us and speak out.
So before we speak about what Women for Change's work is like now and what the day-to-day is like, unfortunately, we know that statistically about a third of all women experience some form of gender-based violence all over the planet. So this is sadly not a unique experience, although it's painful to say it like that. You've come to another country, experienced something different from what you had in your own country. So Cape Town is quite a tourist hub. People come here all the time and don't think about making such a massive change and getting involved in the community. What gave you the trigger to what gave you the push to say, I'm not actually just going to be some tourist. I want to get involved. I want to make a difference here. I'm passionate about this place.
I never came as a tourist. I came to work as an au pair in South Africa.
Okay.
On the second day I arrived, I met my best friend and also co-founder of Women for Change. She worked as a volunteer in a township in Cape Town.
Gotcha.
So in my first week, I drove in, I saw the experience,
Okay.
and she had that nonprofit organization for a couple of years, and it was a very small nonprofit organization. It doesn't exist anymore, funding reasons.
Sorry, what was it called?
Kids of Good Hope.
Okay.
So it was very small. She slowly ran it on her own, and she helped small kids and teenagers too. They went to markets together. They did beadwork, teenage pregnancy, taking them to hospital. She actually moved close to that area to open up her living space, and those kids came every afternoon after school, and she would help them. Became a family. So I would go in very often. I didn't mind picking my friends up from Kukuletu. Looking back today, I wouldn't do it anymore. But I don't know. When you come from a different country, I always say you can never imagine how horrific it really is. Like when I walked in to Sulawesi Pass, it didn't feel different. The people were my friends. They welcomed me. I didn't see the violence. When they said, if you go out, it's 10 o'clock now, please don't stop at the stop sign. Okay, I didn't stop at the stop sign. But I mean, looking back now, knowing what has happened, and we often speak about those kids and probably in those moments not knowing what they actually went through, right? Like how hectic it is. But I have been in many townships. I have sat in many checks. So I didn't come as a tourist. I didn't need that kick
Got
to
you.
push it. I didn't need it. I think I was always a person to speak out. I wouldn't consider myself an activist, but I guess that's what it is. I always spoke up for people who didn't have a voice even before. So I didn't need a kick. It just felt, it was a natural transition, and I never expected, and I never wanted a nonprofit organization. When I came into that space, I sat down with Rape Crisis or other organizations, and I said, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Because we have hundreds of gender-based violence organizations in South Africa. So it was the community pushing it that way, and not me deciding, today I help women and children. It was, people call it a calling, I don't know. But yeah, I guess I run with it.
So let's get into what the day-to-day, because I think people falsely assume that Women for Change is about posting pictures on your Instagram account and on Twitter, and I don't think they realize that's not the actual work of the organization. What is the real day-to-day behind the scenes of the organization?
So yeah, I guess that is exactly what people think. I think people see the awareness that is happening on social media. So I always explain Women for Change. We work on about 3 pillars, which is the awareness, which most people see. It's the advocacy work, which especially this year with the petition handover, the G20 shutdown, the entire campaigning around particular that topic. I think we actually at the forefront of advocacy. So that's what people see us. What people don't see is the third pillar, and actually the biggest, which is the victim support that we run every single day. So when you look at those stories that we publish, and I published more than 1,500 femicide cases on the page. 90% of those cases, I spoke to the families directly. So someone speaks to those families, someone writes those stories, someone creates the post, someone gets that image, and someone gets the approval as well. So that alone is a long process.
Let me ask this. How many, if we would say maybe DMs, emails, messages on Twitter, on average, what are you getting a day?
100, sometimes 200. It really depends on what we post. So if I post a story, e-hailing, or your femicide case that is particularly gruesome, the DMs go up.
The DMs in terms of people looking for support?
Looking for support. Because now what we have seen is that snowball effect. If I share a story about e-hailing, my inbox is full with e-hailing stories.
Got you.
So what we do is now we collect those e-hailing stories, and I speak to Uber and Bolt quite often. So it's really the work in the background what we do. So yes, we guide victims. We really try to find solutions. I wouldn't say not like your usual victim support, but they have a kind of framework they work. Most of the time it's resources. We really struggle with resources because a lot of nonprofit organizations either don't work, don't have the funding, have shut down. So we need to guide. And what I think I found out, and I'm still doing victim support. So I'm lucky now I have 2 more people who help with the DMs. But I mean, if we look at the shutdown, 3 weeks, it went viral everywhere. We still have 8,000 messages in backlog. We had more than 15,000 just on Instagram, TikTok.
And when you say messages, you mean victims reaching out, needing support for?
From those 15,000, I can tell you how many are what cases, and there's
Okay.
obviously some text. But I mean, the femicide cases that came in, even now, it's horrific. Just over the weekend, I was on the DMs, probably 10 femicide cases. And that's not cases that particularly happened yesterday or the week before. It can be a case happened in November or September. But again, it's posting a case, and families feel the need to reach out. And often people ask, why are you posting all those femicide cases? Because it helps those families to not just raise awareness, but also to get justice in some cases. So they go to court, and because there's 500 people who shared that post, the judge might have seen it and might not give bail. It has happened so many times, same with missing cases. I don't often post missing cases because I don't have the capacity to also create missing posts for people. But if we do, most of the time we find the person, if
So,
alive or unalive.
so let me ask this question, just to bring it back. Can you take me through the process of supporting a victim? Like, let's say I reach out to you, I say, hey, the incident has happened. Can you help me? I don't know what to do.
So often, if they don't know what to do, we try to guide you on what to do. You don't know how to get a protection order. Your boyfriend has beaten you up last night. You want to know, what is this? Is this domestic violence? Often
Okay.
people don't know.
Wow.
Education.
So that's actually the first step, confirming or helping the victim understand
Yes.
whether they've
Yes.
been a victim or not.
Yes. Believe them. The first what we say is, we believe you and we see you and we will help you guide the situation. 90% of the victims, even if and I see it because we have counselor now who help us pro bono, and we refer a lot of people to counselors. So now I can speak to the counselor. If I refer 10 victims, 2 will actually reach out to the counselor. The other 8 wanted guidance, support, that we believe them, sharing their story. Often they don't want to publish their story. I always say, what you see on social media by now is 1% of what we're dealing with every day. Because often it is very dangerous for me to share the story of anyone. We deal with so many high-profile cases, government, celebrities, people. I have never shared their stories because I simply can't.
Yeah.
So often it is really the guidance on how to get the protection order. How should you open a case? Yes, of course you should, because we need the statistics. But I often, that's not my answer. I often have to think, okay, I again educate.
Yeah.
Please don't go alone. Take this kind of evidence. So it's a lot of guidance. It's never just a message comes in, we send you somewhere, and that's it. It's not. And same with families. It's not just posting the case. I often listen to that case, and if I see they need help with investigation, I try to get help with other organizations I know that work in that space. Counseling for families. No one offers that. So I actually utilize the counselors now to help families. I have so many families on my private WhatsApp. I still talk to them after years. So the daily process is different from day to day.
Yeah.
It's team meetings. It's a lot of emails. It's a lot of people who want a partnership. It's a lot of people who want funding, that don't understand that we have no institutional funding. We literally only work with what means work, utilize donations. So for me, it's very, very hard also to look at Women for Change. Where are we in 6 months? Because if we look what has happened in the last 4 weeks, we had a bit about 500,000 followers across social media. We now over 1 million. More followers means more messages, means more awareness we are raising. So like I said, 8,000 messages. still in backlog.
And can I just add something in here that I think is very important to understand, just for the viewer watching. I think, and just to clear the air, I think the organization has received a lot of negative publicity, perhaps since the Chris Brown incident, right? And I think some people are confused about how the organization is still standing, how after all the negative publicity. And I think what they don't understand is that that third pillar of victim support is built of real victims who have approached you and received real support. So there's the awareness side that is being targeted from the social media side of things, but the organization is not built on awareness. The organization is built on that third pillar of victim support, and those are real people who have unwavering support for an organization who said, these people helped me when I didn't know what to do. I didn't know I was being abused. I didn't know I had a
Yes.
case. And so you can't you can't deny somebody's reality who has experienced the organization and referred friends to the organization, referred family to the organization, gotten help from the organization, and said, I understand you want to target this organization because some person on social media is saying bad things, or another celebrity said bad things about them. But when I was abused, when I was sexually assaulted, when I was beaten up, this real organization provided real support. So I have no idea what you were talking about.
That's absolutely what it is. That's why we're still doing what we do. And I mean, I know what I have done in the past years. So if I look on social media and the people who come after me personally, and there has been a lot has been said about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to swallow, but I look at my DMs and I see the love, coming in,
Yeah.
and the many, many thank yous. And I think, especially with the shutdown, I spoke to victims that I haven't spoken for 5 years, and the messages I got, especially from the survivors and families, just thank you, was that's what I do. What I do, I do it for them. I don't do it for myself. I never did it for myself. I never did it for Women for Change. Women for Change is not built on me. It's the community who built it. It's the community who wanted it to become a safe space for victims. So if you look on social media and those 5 people who shout, there's another 100 people who shout louder,
Yeah.
even if it's in our DMs. And it's okay that they don't come out.
And 100 people who are looking for real support and receiving
Yes,
real support.
absolutely. And that is when they put their videos up there, we work in the DM. So it's quite frustrating for me, especially with my team, other people having in the DMs, when we get threats and hardcore threats. I mean, I have to delete comments where people say burn the organization down under a femicide post.
Yeah.
It's families reading those comments. So that has become hard to now navigate those messages, because I need to read a message from a hater until I get to a message from a survivor, right?
Right.
So that has become hard. But other than that, I mean, we really try to navigate. I have good attorneys, I have good advocates who do an amazing job and really ground us.
Who most likely work pro bono as well. Which
100%, because I could never afford that amount of legal work.
Yeah.
And it's not just one person. It's also people think we handing out the letters of defamation left, right, and center. It's not like that. I mean, literally only send out 3. But it's other cases we deal with as well, right? And then again, I give a lot of legal support. My attorneys support survivors. That's the other thing. I have a lot of survivors where my attorneys go with them pro bono to the court as well. So a lot what I say is not true, but I guess I was told by a funder in Botswana that we are human rights defenders and what we are facing is absolute normal.
Oh, really?
Yes.
This is normal for the NPO space,
This
specifically
is-
in gender-based violence?
Especially in women's rights. I had a meeting last week where they actually say to me, you need funding for mental health for your team. You need to care. You need to hear.
I can imagine.
I was sitting there and I was like, okay, wow, that's interesting how you see it. And they explained to me how usual it is and how actually small it is, because they said you had global attention and you had no global backlash. And I guess if we speak to the founder of the Me Too movement, we don't want to know what, they went through after that entire movement went viral. And I guess like that we had a movement, like this purple movement went viral from South Africa.
Right.
Absolutely amazing, right?
So the experience of the pushback against gender-based violence, NPOs, this is the global experience
That's the
of
global
what organizations...
That's the global experience of Yeah, human rights defenders and activists in that space.
So just the human rights spaces all, not even just gender-based violence.
She
This
said
is
to me, especially when you deal with women rights, that you call out those because you will always have a backlash. You will always have the masses coming after you. Because now, I mean, we're dealing with patriarchy and it's not going away, right? So
yeah.
I always say if I benefit from that system, obviously I want to continue benefiting from that system. So I understand the backlash. But that was, I don't know, it was shocking to hear that it's normal and that what we experience is quite little.
Wow. Little.
Little. Little. No, I mean, I spoke to many activists in Kenya and other African countries. I mean, they're fear for their life, right? That's what it is. They're, when I went to events, they particularly thanked me for doing what I'm doing because we are still somehow safe in South Africa. Wouldn't say safe now, but it's horrific.
Let me ask this question. So, comparatively, right? Sweden has a Human Development Index. They are ranking 5th. We rank 106th. Is that the same experience in European countries as well in this NPO space?
I don't think so.
The backlash?
I don't think you have the same backlash. I think you have some kind of backlash. I mean, look at Andrew Tate and, look at the US who
Yeah.
is leading. Look at all of those, but I don't think the backlash is as bad. I don't think that human rights defenders have to fear for their life in first world countries. I think that's Africa. That's now Uganda, right, where you speak about
Interesting.
your queer rights.
Why do you think that is in on this continent in particular?
No accountability. I mean, I guess if there's a Swedish activist being killed, the whole world speaks about it. If there's
That's
an
true.
activist killed in Kenya, we don't even know the activist in first
I
place.
see.
I
So
guess.
it's a little bit of white supremacy, you say.
So 100%.
Got you.
I think that is the case, right?
There's a word we've thrown around a few times, and I want to unpack that for the viewers as well. Tell us what the word femicide is, what it means, why has it come to prominence now, you feel, at least? Because I think, sometimes we get so, when we work in the space or talk about the space often, we just throw around the jargon. Femicide, talk to us.
So femicide is particularly the killing of women and girls, particularly when it's violent. I think in different countries, femicide is seen very differently. I know in Germany, femicide is only considered a femicide when it happened in a domestic violence space. In South Africa, femicide is considered a femicide when a woman was killed due to a violent, wherever it happened on the streets by someone unknown, where in most countries, it must be someone known to you. Yes.
Okay.
So if we look at the United Nations femicide report from 2023, those cases are particular cases where they looked at women and girls being killed due to violence. I just want to put some statistics out there because that is quite horrific. So 51,000 women were killed in 2023 worldwide due to femicide.
Femicide according to South African definition or the narrower domestic violence?
To South African definition. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
51,000 women were violently killed. Mostly because due of their gender. Which also, you do their gender means what? You are, I think, particularly more vulnerable. I'm not as strong as you, So, however, 51,000 women murdered worldwide and 21,000 women killed in Africa. I think close to 9,000 women being killed in the United States. And in Europe, 2,300 women were murdered. Europe has 750 million people living in that entire continent. And you have 2,300 women being killed, which is horrific, right? I mean, we have the UK leading now, calling gender-based violence a national emergency.
Okay.
And they have about, I don't know the exact statistics. I think it's about 100 femicide cases a year. So that's obviously when you look at your 2,300 femicide cases in Europe. Now we come to South Africa, and we have 5,700 femicide cases in 1 year. That is double the amount than Europe has. And I'm sure the reporting in Europe is also better than it is in South Africa. Because I can tell you, I have seen 3 different statistics of femicide. How many femicide cases has happened in 2023, 2024? We have no recent statistics of femicide and child murder cases. I think the last 3 quarterly statistics didn't include it anymore in South Africa. So we can't even look at the latest femicide statistic at the annual ones. We don't know how many women were killed in 2024 because we only have the statistics from January to September. But what I want to say is that South Africa, with 60 million people, has a double amount of femicide cases than entire Europe. And that just is mind blowing.
Right.
So, yeah.
So there was you've been pushing for the national state of for gender-based violence to be declared a national state of disaster, which obviously pushes the government into taking a more assertive approach regarding gender-based violence. So before we get into what the benefits of that are, what's the role that you play? Because I know you engage the state on the national state of disaster. You've obviously advocated for it over time. What's the role that you play in this, if at all?
So I think there has been a lot of confusion. People think because Women for Change was on the forefront of advocating for this call for gender-based violence and femicide to be declared a national disaster, we are the ones who implement it. No, that's not how it works. So maybe just to take you back, last year, I was quite exhausted at the end of 2024 after the Chris Brown backlash. And yeah, I didn't know how 2025 would look like, but I say to my team, there's one thing I want to push. And if this is my last thing, I think it's time for gender-based violence really to be declared a national disaster. And I looked at COVID. I looked at, what is it? What was it? The blackouts. We didn't
Load shedding.
load shedding. I looked at load shedding. I looked at, those state of emergencies,
Yeah.
call them, right? And what was the same is that we, how would I frame it? The majority of people are in danger, right? Women are the majority of South Africans. If you include children, there's a lot of people.
Right.
So I looked at it, and then I spoke to a lot of legal experts. I spoke to people within the government structure. And I presented the demands I had because I wanted demands like no bail for perpetrators, education at schools. I wanted demands that we can actually accomplish.
Right.
I was aware of the National Strategic Plan. I sat on the table with the people who led the National Strategic Plan during that time and people from the Total Shutdown movement. So we looked what can be done, and we came up with the petition. We put it out there. It went out. We handed it over in April. Deputy Minister of Women, Children and Persons with Disabilities signed our demands, and we were supposed to hear back. We heard back via email 6 to 8 weeks later, and then they actually told us that everything we have handed in has been done already.
Okay.
So I was like, no, that's not what we feel on the ground. Like, sure, I'm aware that President Ramaphosa said 2 years ago there should not be any bail for perpetrators. But I can tell you that every single day in my inbox, I have at least 10 women telling me that the perpetrator is out on bail after he was arrested because he breached the protection order, or mostly it's a femicide case where the perpetrator handed himself over and he's still out on bail. And then we all know how the justice system drags it. So it was a lot of back and forth, back and forth. In August, we were invited to the National Dialogue, brought a casket, which, yeah, people didn't really like, obviously. That was our unburied casket, which we first brought to the union buildings, and then I wanted to utilize it as a symbol to really showcase the impact of femicide cases. And then I knew in April already that we are going to have a shutdown. I knew the G20 will happen. I planned it around it. And then in August, we started brainstorming. And then we stopped it. So much happened again. And we were really, really late with everything about the national shutdown. And I know my team was pushing. They said, we need 8 weeks, to make people aware that we are shutting down. I was like, no, we don't need 8 weeks. Let's do it. I wasn't ready to do the artwork. I wasn't ready to put a call out.
Yeah.
I still wasn't sure how it's going to look like. 50 minutes lie down. How can we make sure everyone can take part? So we only published it the first week of November. And then it went viral everywhere. And then it seemed like it was the first time the government woke up. 2 days after that went viral, I had people calling me and saying, people in the presidency speaking.
Okay.
I can tell you that. And they are scared. And I was laughing. I'm like, they're scared of what? Of women not, going to work on not Friday. I mean, I'm not calling for violence, and it
Yeah.
won't be violent. No, it's all about being embarrassed. And I was
I
like,
see.
okay, yeah, I see. That's how it works. That's what I wanted it to work. And then we actually got a letter telling us the classification won't happen because GBV can't be classified as a national disaster, doesn't fit in the legal framework.
Okay.
I was like, okay, good. That's okay. If that is that, then we go ahead with the shutdown. And then I don't know what happened. I think I didn't reply to that email. 2-3 days later, we got another email from Minister Lotbisa, who is in charge for the disaster management. So he got back to us and he said, I want a meeting. I want to sit down with you virtually, and I want to do it now. So we did that meeting, and there was quite a little bit of, okay, let's speak about it. Let's make it possible. We see it is an emergency. We need to push it. What do you want? And I explained, and that's what I wanted. I want the urgency. I want the action. I don't want talk anymore. We have framework. We have the NSP. We have everything. But we have no funding, and there is no funding for the NSP. I got a report about the National Strategic Plan not presented, sent via email last week, Friday. I haven't had a look at it. It's 100 pages long. I'm interested to see and to read what is in there because, as far as I know, there was never a budget allocated to the National Strategic Plan, and it's been 5 years in a row. So that's what I wanted. I wanted the funding, the urgency, and I wanted to keep the government accountable on something because it's been talks and talks and talks and talks. And
So are you saying that having it declared the national state of disaster releases funding for
yes,
the NSC? Perfect.
that it releases funding. All the different departments now need to move together, and they need to release funding, and they now need to look how gender-based violence and that disaster, how does it fit in? How does the framework work? So when we go into meetings, okay, let me just go back. We had 2 more meetings, and the government still hoped that we wouldn't go ahead with the national disaster, with the G20 shutdown. And I said, we will go ahead. I mean, whatever it's happening now, we will do it. And also, I can't stop it anymore. I mean,
No, it was
that
done.
point, I mean. And then
Even if you had to post something and say it's not happening, it was still going to happen.
even then. And then we had a meeting, I think a week before the shutdown. And in that meeting, we sat there with 40 people from government. The petition reached 1 million in that meeting.
Wow.
That was absolutely incredible. I mean, I was almost crying. I couldn't believe it. And I think that's when they saw, okay, it's getting there. And that was also a moment where we had global attention. And I told him in that meeting, it's not just South Africans looking at you anymore. We need to take action. So on a Sunday, I was invited to speak at the G20 summit, Sunday night at 11 p.m., which I had to be in Joburg at Tuesday. So I flew to Joburg. I didn't want to do it, but a lot of people say to me, go take that stage and tell them what you want. And I did it. And we knew we had that meeting on Thursday before the Friday of the shutdown at 2 p.m. And then I think at 1 p.m., Sabrina Walter ended the G20 social summit, and he announced the national disaster. And I didn't know. I never thought that we would get it. So I didn't watch it. My phone just started buzzing, and I looked, and people were, my God, it happened. Sabrina, did you see? And I'm like, no, but I'm going into a meeting with a lot of ministers now. So we went into that meeting, and they say to us, look, if you saw it, it's true. It is a disaster. And they actually say to us, we are standing behind you for tomorrow.
Nice.
Go and march, go protest, and we won't stop you. And honestly, I hadn't.
So at that point, you received state support for, or at least the go ahead.
I didn't ask for any permits to protest. At that point, we had 15 nationwide key points where we were going to protest. One of them was the union buildings. So I took it with a thank you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I always say to the ministers, look, I appreciate that you take the time now. I know the G20 is happening tomorrow. So the push, I was so thankful. Let's be honest. And I didn't expect it. So I was really thankful. And even on that Friday morning, when I drove to the Sea Point Promenade, and I got a message from government saying, we signed it in this morning. So coming to Sea Point, carrying the casket again, but this time it was a different feeling. It wasn't a fight anymore. It was somehow an accomplishment, which we
Yeah.
could also, I don't know, the day felt, I don't know, it felt the energy shifted. I felt last year, sorry to say, but after Chris Brown came, it was a very dark energy.
Yeah.
The case with, what was his name? Zibusu Lawrence. That Facebook case happened after Chris Brown. Chelsea was killed on Christmas. The year just started off very, very difficult. I think that whole, would you rather be with a man or a bear movement, came. So
Yeah.
it was a very, very, very heavy start. So the end of this year, and just before 16 days of activism, seeing the world purple, seeing malls and, buildings lighting up purple, and
Yeah.
then women lying down, and the energy just shifted. It was the most beautiful. So I'm thankful for that we got there,
Yeah.
and we didn't have to fight anymore on a Friday, and that we actually had the support. And yeah, they opened the Union Building gates for us.
I saw there were police support as well at the march. They were there, not in an antagonistic way, but rather to protect.
Yes, when I arrived in Sea Point, I just saw the police, and I called Melis, and I'm like, Melis, there's police. And she's like, no, they actually seem like they're supporting us. And I'm like, okay. Yes, that's good. So yeah, it was supportive. We didn't have any backlash. It was the most peaceful. It was the most peaceful. I remember when I looked on Instagram. I mean, I still look on TikTok and I see videos I've never seen in my life about the shutdown. And I always I want to burst out in tears because it's like, wow. Yeah, it was a very, very beautiful moment. Probably the most beautiful moment in that movement for me.
Let me ask this question. Let me wrap up here. So, national state of disaster puts the financial legs behind the national strategic plan. What is the impact for, for example, a rape crisis, a Tutuzela Center, other NPOs in the GBV space? How does this assist them?
So apparently, there will be more funding for nonprofit organizations. We obviously roll out more Tutuzela centers. I have seen that in a framework. We also apparently have GBV desks in all police stations by now. So those are all things that have been said already.
Okay.
It has been said now again on Friday. I had a 4-hour meeting with the government where they presented us their 5 priorities. They're looking into how they are going to move forward. What I'm still missing is the short-term goals, because I believe we can, within 1 year, change the discourse of femicide and gender-based violence, simply with not giving bailout anymore, simply with arresting people. But yeah, it is in place. What we are going to do as Women for Change, I will ask those uncomfortable questions in those upcoming meetings. I have asked for reports. I have asked for a report about the gender-based violence fund. I have asked for reports about the GBV command center that is there. There are so many things in place already, which have been in place, which we now really have to look at and hold the government accountable. And I'm going to hold the government accountable on what they say.
Yeah.
I think that hasn't been done before. I wasn't in the process when it was the total shutdown or the NSP. I wasn't involved, so I just want to take this call with the other organizations that I'm sitting with in those meetings.
I think that's the part that people also miss out, that you as an organization engage with other existing infrastructure and organizations, and that's what gives the legs behind.
Yes. I invited other organizations in those meetings. It's not just me. I can't know it all. And it was important for me to speak to the initiators of the total shutdown. They started this movement in 2018. It was the GBV summit in 2019, 2022 again. But so much happened in that movement. So I think for 2026, what I would wish is that more organizations, more movements come together. We need to sit at one table.
Yeah.
We need to. We all want the same somehow. Others want the same, but they don't want to be as loud. That's okay. Let me be loud.
Yeah.
But,
which makes sense given the type of work that you do.
The type of work. I understand that it comes with threats, and I don't have funding. I can be loud.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't have to be quiet in meetings of the government because I've never gotten a cent from them. So, which 90%, maybe not 90%, but your top 5 GBV organizations that we have in South Africa, without naming them, they're all funded by the government.
Department of Social Development, yeah.
Department of Social Development, millions. And I mean, it's not always just a funding problem. It's also a problem of, the mismanagement of funding, 100%. So what we need to see is more impact, funding going to the right organizations, and also funding going to the organizations at the forefront. And I'm talking about really small shelters, not the ones, that offer you 50 beds. I'm talking about the shelters in Kalicha that just offer 3 beds. They also need funding. It's important. You need to enable those people. I always say without civil society and the people on the ground, our domestic violence statistic would be much higher.
So people know how to support you in awareness. They can just share your posts, view your content, or whatever the content is on the page. Victims know how to reach you. Now that we are at the stage where the state is behind not just your organization, but other organizations fighting gender-based violence, how do people support you in terms of advocacy and other organizations? How do they support the rape crisis? How do they support their local Tutuzela centers? How do they engage on the advocacy side and say, hey, I know you have a gender-based violence help desk at the police station. This is what it needs. This is how you can make it better. How do they communicate their solutions in this to you or other organizations? Maybe you know what I mean? How can we help on the advocacy side?
I guess share, speak up. If you can, donate to those organizations. Resources are important, like I just say. Being in a gender-based violence space, you always beg for money, and I call it begging because we still have to explain why we're doing the work we do. So if you see the work and if you know great activists, donate, help, offer your services. If you're good in accounting, offer your services as an accountant to an organization. If you're good in social media, offer it.
If you're a lawyer, offer it.
100% offer you pro bono hours. It's important. And educate. If you know and if you believe victims, educate the people around you. My goal is not to run the biggest nonprofit organization in this country. My goal is to not have Women for Change anymore. So, we have actually a safe country for women and children. So please educate the people around you. Call them out. Start isolating perpetrators. Because I always say we all don't know rapists and perpetrators, but then 170 women open a case every single day. So I think besides the advocacy work, it's the education. The Purple Movement, how they called it, started something very beautifully. People started engaging, and even just with your purple profile picture. And in schools, young schools, kids just asking, what is this about? And the conversation starts. So I think besides the advocacy, for me, is educating each other. It's one of the biggest changes I see. Yeah, that's it.
Sabrina, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Darren Camphor Talks. If you want more info on Sabrina and Women for Change, you can go to womenforchange.co.za.
Yes.
Womenforchange.co.za. Have a look at their work. Have a look at what they do. Get involved with your local GBV organizations. Get behind them. Offer your support. Offer your services. Thank you very much for joining us. See you on the next episode.